I want to get into the Caitlin Clark stuff because there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot to unpack. A lot of the conversation revolving around her. When this all started, she got rocked, standing still. Kennedy Carter knocked her on her ass. It became a whole thing, and it kind of opened up a lot of the conversation when it comes to Caitlyn and so on and so forth. In some of the conversation, it was just kind of expanded. Some people had been having it, but it brought up a lot about WNBA coverage, Caitlin Clark, her treatment in the WNBA up to this point, all this stuff. Angel Reese, just a lot. I don't want to delve into details I don't think are super important. I do want to stay in one lane specifically, and that lane is solely the Caitlin Clark treatment lane. All right. And I think that, like, when I get into kind of the nuances of this conversation, I think that'll honestly help with a lot of some of the other stuff as well. But I think that this is the root of it. Okay. So there are a couple of conversations that have been out here, right? One of the ones that was talked about was, and I think that this more sparks from like the Twitter people who don't really know what they're talking about. They're just kind of talking, saying stuff like, the WNBA, they need to protect this girl. This girl's their cash cow. They're getting chartered flights because of her. They're getting, all this coverage because of her, blah, 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 right? I think that is conversation number one that to me is just straight asinine. And there's a freaking little fly that won't leave me alone as I try to record. So if you see me swiping, that's what you see, my YouTube audience. Anyway, which I think is, well, like I said, which I think is absolutely asinine if that's the case, because these are competitors. There's conversation, is Caitlin Clark being targeted? There's conversation about WNBA girls being jealous, having a little bit of hate or, animosity towards her. There's the component of race with this, right? She is white, in a predominantly black league. And I want to sit here and say, there was, a lot of talk with Monica McNutt and Stephen A. Smith, and then, it's just a lot. And I wanted to come out and say that, because I took my time making sure that I really really took in all the information I could take in and really thought deep and hard about my true opinion of the matter. And I think that all of that, they need to take it easy on her, but all of that is all true. I do think that there is a little bit of a target on Caitlin Clark's back, but I don't think it's out of hate and jealousy, or out of like the racial component of things. I solely think that the target is because I, for lack of better words, but I think that the target on Caitlin Clark's back is truly out of competition. Okay. We saw earlier, she got hit by a hard screen. That happens. We talked about that. That happens in basketball. She obviously got knocked on her ass by Kennedy Carter. That doesn't happen often in basketball, but sometimes it happens. And again, when it happens with the men, we don't say anything. We say, all right, flagrant foul, let's move on. It happens with Caitlin Clark, and now it's like, oh, it becomes a whole national discussion. And that's the part that irritates people. But let me ask you this. Do you think when Lonzo Ball joined the league that he didn't have a target on his back? Do you think that when LeBron James, the high school phenom, the chosen one, joined the NBA, do you think that LeBron James didn't have a target on his back? This is what happens. That target is not about anything other than competition. Yo, Lonzo, your dad is over here talking greasy. I'm coming for you. Everybody. Ask Patrick Beverley what he does for anybody who, just the way, and again, Patrick Beverley is kind of a horrible example because he's a little bit crazy. But ask Patrick Beverley his thoughts on if, how these rookies and anybody, he's like, yeah, it's time to go. I'm coming at you full court, right? LeBron James out of high school. I mean, you even knew some of the Cleveland Cavaliers, the interviews that they had when he was coming in. Yeah, man, no rookie's just gonna come in here and just da 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 da. They were saying the same things we heard Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird saying, and they were gonna be his teammates, right? So, yeah, you don't think that guys were like, all right, attack him. He's supposed to be all of that. Attack him. We know Lonzo got it. It was probably a little more prevalent with him because he was playing for the Lakers as well. His dad went on that huge, his press run, as opposed to LeBron, who went to Cleveland, and it's not like his parents were out here on a press run. But still, that's competition, guys. That's not jealousy or hate. That's just competition, okay? You also got to remember, like, you bringing all these eyes is an opportunity for me to show out. When I was in high school, one of the things that, like, people used to not, like, in high school, if you had a player on your team who was getting recruited and there's a recruit who wants to come to practice or a recruit that wants to come to the game, my coach would always say, like, hey, there's going to be some coaches here from such and such. They're not here for you. So he would say this to the whole team, even if you knew who they were here for. The message was, do not get out here and start acting a fool because there's coaches in the stands, because that's not going to change nothing about why they're here, right? Play your game, because he didn't want us out here, doing stuff that we have no business doing, which will hurt the team, because we know there's scouts, or college coaches in the stands. They're here for a specific reason, whether it's one of our teammates or somebody on the opposing team. They're not here for us. But alternatively, if there's eyes here, that this is an opportunity for me to show out a little bit, which is why he made that point. That is just competitiveness, and that is also trying to get yours. This is the WNBA. These women make a living off this stuff. This pays their bills. Well, they might have other stuff that pays their bills too, but this is their job. They're professionals, so this is their job. This is how they eat. So yeah, if there's a chance for me to show out because I need to get paid, and you're here, ain't no better way to show out than to show you what's up. Now, there's a couple of ways to do that. You could do it the Sabrina Ionescu way, which is, I'm just going to cook on offense. I'm going to cross you up. I'm going to hit you with that fake pass, get you turned around. I'm going to shoot. I'm going to do the shrug. Like, I don't know what that kind of way. And then there's, I'm going to hit you when you're not looking. So there's a couple of different ways to do that. But yeah, that's the spirit of competition. Gino Auriemma said that she's being targeted. And I think he's right. I don't know if when you hear the word targeted, that makes people like, whoa, she's not being targeted. But for lack of better terms, I do think that there is a target on her back. I also don't think that it's just her, by the way. I think that this has a lot to do with a lot of the rookies. The WNBA draft basically became the red carpet, right? These girls are in all the commercials. These girls are, like, it's not just about basketball, it seems like, with a lot of these girls. That's not me. That's not me saying anything other than it seems like it's about more than basketball, right? It's about our brand. This is the world we live in. It's about our brand. It's about letting people in because it's the popularity of us and of the sport. The more popular each individual gets, the more popular the collective gets. That is a fact, okay? Most companies don't get popular, and then the people in the company start to get popular because of the company's popularity. It usually works the other way around, right? ESPN doesn't get popular by being ESPN. I mean, once ESPN gets to a certain point, yes, then as people join in, they get more popularity being associated with ESPN. But what starts it is we've got this person who is super popular at CBS or super popular at wherever, and we brought them in, and his popularity now, his audience, whoever it is now coming to ESPN. Okay. That's why a lot of like these podcast companies, they don't go find no names and then let their let the company's growth grow that no name. They find somebody who's big and important. That's why you got a lot of these athletes joining Wave and Volume and that kind of stuff, because you're bringing their popularity in, which is going to grow the mass. So that's where it comes from. It's all about brand. And these girls who have been in the WNBA, it ain't been about brand. It's been about hooping. Let's get back to hooping, right? So I do think there's a little bit of that there. It's human nature to be a little bit jealous. Yo, I've been cooking. Why is it that all of a sudden before you've played a game, you got these, these deals and this da 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 da, right? I do think, that's just human nature to think that. There's nothing wrong with that. I do think the racial component, and this honestly goes back to 2 years ago, LSU versus Iowa. You got to remember, at the basis of the conversation, okay, at just the basis, you had Iowa, team of white girls, and their white girl superstar, who was budding superstar because of their run, and you had LSU. And if we're just being honest, there's a racial component to the predominantly black LSU team versus the predominantly white Iowa team matching up. Okay? We can say that. We can be fair and say that. All right? Now, from that point, it doesn't help. Caitlin Clark is white. Angel Reese is black. The stars of those teams. So where this now bleeds into the WNBA is, the WNBA is 60% black. Okay. So the vast majority of the league are African American women. Okay. The WNBA is also it represents the LGBTQ community, right? A lot of the women are gay or lesbian. Okay. So it's and they're women. So that's three minorities: being black, being a woman, and being lesbian or gay or whatever you want us in LGBTQ plus. Okay. But we'll stick with just the race. So 60% of this league is black. But if you start talking about the names that you know or the names you knew before this year, most of them tend to be white. Why is that? I think that there's a little bit of race component in that. I'm not saying that it's race as to why, but you've got women like, we know who Candace Parker is. First rookie in WNBA history to also win MVP. She might be the only. We know who Asia Wilson is now, right? She was on Podcast P. She's kind of been everywhere. She won an MVP. The Aces, she's their best player. Now that there's a lot of popularity, people are starting to know who Asia Wilson is. But you know who we knew already? We knew Sabrina Ionescu. We knew Brianna Stewart. We knew Diana Taurasi. We knew Alina Deladon. Like, these girls, it seems like the vast majority of the stars who are being thrown in front of us when it comes to the WNBA, Sue Bird, Kelsey Plum, even the girls who aren't super stars but are still stars, it seems like most of them are white. And there's a little bit of a race thing in there. So now you look at, why is it that the WNBA is like champion this white girl from Iowa when you got 60% black league here of girls who are doing the damn thing, and she's the one that's got the Nike deal or the whatever deals before she's even stepped foot in a WNBA court and blah, 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 blah. I think that there is a component of that as well. I think all of this is a melting pot smorgasbord of where this stuff comes from. Okay? But my overall point is this. One, what's happening to Caitlin Clark isn't just happening to Caitlin Clark. We watched Cameron Brink. I think this was she made the game-saving block and got hit in the face, damn near broke her nose. Once the game ended, she bent over because her nose was hurting or her mouth or whatever it was hurting. Right? Angel Reese went up for a layup or something like that, got clotheslined, and hit the deck hard. Caitlin Clark's obviously getting put on her ass, getting hit by hard screens. All these rookies are getting their ass beat because it's a physical league. We're just now starting to see how physical because we're just now really paying attention. And that goes into the other part of the conversation that I'm not getting into, which is the coverage and the popularity. And now people are watching and talking. And that's bringing a lot. This is why these conversations are coming up, because now everyone's here and everybody's, while they might be late to the bandwagon, they are here. So then that adds a little bit of an element as well. But They're all getting their ass whooped. But part of what makes a player like, oh, this is a big deal is when Angel Reese got clothesline, nobody had a word to say. Caitlin Clark, something that would have been a flagrant foul and we move on happens to Caitlin Clark, and all this blow up happens in the world of sports. That is where you kind of see that like, oh, face of the league type stuff and so on and so forth. And I want to be clear to people because there are a lot of people who are kind of like off on the dynamics of what's going on here. So I'm going to school you. If you believe that Caitlin Clark's popularity is attributed to Angel Reese, you are incorrect. You are 1,000% incorrect. Caitlin Clark's popularity started in their 2023 run to the finals before losing to LSU. She was talking trash. She was hyped. She was scoring 30 points a game in the NCAA tournament. And then when LSU came to town, LSU kind of played the whole team played the villain role because people were kind of like, oh, shoot, like we're trying to see this girl win. And then Angel Reese came to town and said, okay, watch this. If you believe, though, that Angel Reese's popularity is attributed to Caitlin Clark, you are also 1,000% wrong. Angel Reese took the opportunity of all the eyes in the national championship game to show y'all I do this shit. Watch me work. Okay? From there, we spent that next season paying attention to LSU all year long. That next season paying attention to Iowa all year long. And the committee made sure we put them on the same side of the bracket so we can make sure, because South Carolina was the best team anyway, right? So we didn't want one of them matching up against South Carolina before they saw each other. Let's get them in the same bracket. Because we were all waiting for that. And we got it. Okay? But for anybody who feels like, hey, Angel Reese is why Caitlin Clark is where she is, that incorrect. And anyone who feels like Caitlin Clark is where Angel Reese is the reason for where Angel Reese is, incorrect. Okay? The dynamic of them going head to head, the dynamic of them talking shit, the dynamic of them now being on teams and Kennedy Carter being on Angel Reese's team and knocking Caitlin Clark on her ass, the dynamics of all of that play into what makes this thing great. But the best thing that we love about stories and heroes is triumph, is coming from nothing, from struggling and climbing that mountaintop to get to the top. We love that story more than anything else. Okay? LeBron James got swept his first year in the finals. And it took him how long to win? We love those. Right? I think the one guy who might be an exception is Patrick Mahomes because he kind of came in and won immediately. But even his very first year starting, they lost to Brady because of that, because D4 jumping off sides. So he didn't win that first year when he won MVP. Okay? Triumph. This is why when Lamar Jackson finally wins, we're going to love it. This is why when Josh Allen, if he ever gets one, when he finally wins, we're going to love it. It's that type of stuff. So Caitlin Clark right now, struggling. She didn't make the Olympic team, which, by the way, y'all are also blowing that way out of proportion, but I will save that for another day. It's kind of hard to make the Olympic team when you're playing in college and you are a month and a half after your championship game. You're now playing WNBA games. You're getting all this stuff. She don't need to be playing on that team anyway. She needs to take the summer and relax and rest and recover. But I digress. So yeah, man, it is so, like, the conversation really goes so much deeper. A lot of y'all are missing the point, and a lot of y'all are trying to focus on one thing or the other, even though it's all those things that kind of have an effect. There goes that damn gnat again. Even though it's all those things that have an effect, all y'all are kind of trying to only focus on one. Y'all got to stop doing that. Y'all got to stop doing that. Like I said, she might be being targeted a little bit. Sure. That's in the spirit of competition. She's not being mistreated, right? They're just competing. Okay? Might there be a little bit of hate, a little bit of jealousy? Yeah, maybe. Is there a racial component to this because she is white and it seems like this is another athlete who's white who's being shoved in our face when we have a lot of these black women who are out here doing the damn thing? Maybe. Maybe that's more of a fan thing too. And maybe that's more like the women there. Asia Wilson might be like, what else do I have to do? I'm clearly the best woman, the best player in this league. What else I got to do, right? Maybe. But that doesn't take away, one, from Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese's greatness, their impact, but also, two, from the fact that this is competition. And I think that we are not used to being so all in on women competing. Because you got to remember, men competing is men competing. That's like us at our rawest form. I don't like when I used to when I was back in the dating circle, I used to tell people all the time, like if I'm talking to somebody or we just started dating, I don't want her to watch me play basketball because I don't want her to see me compete, because that's me at as raw as it gets. Okay, that's me at my core. Everything about you comes out when you're competing. You're not thinking about nothing else. You're not thinking about how you look, about how you sound, about the optics. You're not thinking about how you're being judged. You're just out here to compete, right? You're just acting at your truest form. Your truest self comes out when you're competing. And it was like, I don't know if I'm really ready for you to see all that just yet, right? Like at the very beginning of a relationship, this is what we're seeing from them. And I just don't think we're used to seeing that from women. So, but yeah, that's it. I actually went way too long on that Caitlin Clark piece, but there's a lot to unpack there, and there's a lot of stuff I didn't even really want to cover. So, I mean, a lot of stuff in there that I didn't even want to cover right now, but maybe we'll cover at a different time.